Okay, we hope that that everyone is all set up and has the interpretation up and running. I want to thank Africa Ramirez Lopez for helping with the translation this evening. Welcome, one and all, in Mary Woodward community. My name is Jerry Nyhill, principal here at Mary Woodward. So happy to say that I'm in my 9th year now as principal, and very honored to be here. Thank you for joining us. I would also like to a couple of things to get out of the way, and just for this evening for the presentation, we're going to be using the question and answer if you have questions that come up during the presentation. So please use the Q&A button for questions that come up, and we'll do our best to answer those as we go along. We're meeting as elementary principals tomorrow to really finalize a FAQ, a frequently asked question document. So if it doesn't get answered tonight, we're going to make sure we get those answers to you, whether I call you directly or someone from our office does. So just to let you know that. So I want to thank Lindsay Dar and Suzanne Yusum, who are from our office that are joining us. I want to thank Melanie Bailey, our literacy specialist, who is also on the panel, and also Jamie Kingery. Jamie is a principal at Tualatin Elementary, and he is helping out with some of these questions as well. So again, thank you, and thank you for being here this evening. This presentation, the intention of this is to really touch base where we are, where we have been, where we are currently, and where we are headed with our hybrid and CDL learning, online learning programs, and for you to have a really clear picture as you have an opportunity to choose between hybrid and distance learning, and make the best choice for your family. And I know that after many conversations that I've had with families, many of you already have your minds made up or are very close to it. But again, we want to give a really clear picture of expectations, and for you to really make the best choice for you and your family. So next slide, please. Some key dates of where we're headed. And again, not to spend too much time on this past year, which many of us want to move on from. But the dates that I really want to focus in on are the December 23rd and January 19th were very important dates, as we were given some new metrics to abide by. And these new metrics have made it so that we have a little bit more flexibility in opening up to hybrid, the possibilities of hybrid and having students in school. And that we're going to really focus on what that would look like for us. And so next slide, please. So again, the context we're looking at, that equity and safety are driving all of our district planning during this COVID-19 pandemic, and where as we head into this new phase of education and instruction. We are committing to maintaining hybrid and online options for families. I want to make sure that's very clear, that we said in the beginning that there was going to be a choice between having an inline schooling hybrid option and an online comprehensive distance learning option, and those still will be the case. So as I mentioned those dates before, the hybrid is recommended when there are fewer than 350 cases per 100,000 residents. And the last couple of weeks, we've seen a decrease in numbers. We were at 333 in Washington County 2 weeks ago, and 289 this past week was the latest figure. So really nice to see that downward trend continuing. And then don't forget, for Tigard-Tualatin School District, we need to abide by Clackamas County, Washington County, and Multnomah County, because one of our schools resides in Clackamas County, and more than 10% of our staff lives in Multnomah County. So next slide, please. So this gives you, again, an idea of where we're at. So as I said, with that recent number of 289, we're sitting in that orange zone of the elementary on-site and hybrid transition, with the push down that hopefully we'll be able to get into that yellow zone. But it is incumbent upon us right now that we are getting ready for hybrid instruction and doing whatever we can to be prepared for that and be ready for it, and to be able to welcome kids and the families that choose hybrid instruction. And that is the situation that we're in right now. So we're currently in orange, but hopefully with some consistent drop in numbers, we'll be able to start heading down towards that yellow zone. Next slide, please. So why hybrid instruction, and why try to head in that direction? The goals that we're looking at for that are to develop peer and adult connections. All of our families, all of our students, our staff, I know everyone, I see our staff working round the clock, and I see our families doing whatever they can possibly do to help support their kids, their children at home, working different hours and tag teaming and all these different stories that I'm hearing to make that happen. But our hope and our goal is to get kids in school, to really develop that peer and adult connection and reinvigorate that, to make that happen. And then on top of that as well, to relearn in-person school routines. So school routines are going to look quite different from when we left, which is hard to believe. Friday the 13th of March in 2020 was the first day we did not have school. However, we will be looking at the possibility and putting protocols in place with safety in mind. And those are some those safety routines, things that we're going to be following and adhering to for quite some time as we continue to get through this pandemic time that we're in. And then also the focus on hybrid would be to increase engagement and academic achievement, increase engagement for students that the time away from school and comprehensive distance learning has worked well for a number of families. It worked well from the standpoint that we still wish we could have kids in school full time, but it's not possible. But for an equity standpoint, there are also families that have been deeply impacted, and our basic needs team continues to work with families as we do home visits to try to connect families with, trying to stay online, trying to make sure that we provide supports in that way to make sure kids are attending school. And so we've seen quite the gamut of how that's impacted other students, how this has impacted students across the board. Next slide, please. So the half-day rationale that we have. So we've moved away, given the parameters that we're in right now, from what we looked at way back in August and September, when we looked at the possibility of having kids spend full days at school. We're looking at a half-day program from the standpoint of it'd be more of a consistent approach for students, thinking that if we were to fall into a only seeing kids live 2 days a week, students could go 5 days without seeing their teacher. So we're looking at an AM/PM model, which we'll hit on in just a little bit further on in this presentation. And really that we're looking at the frequent teacher and peer interaction as being the really big bonus in attending school 4 days a week. It supports learning new health and safety routines, so that consistency of getting kids in and practicing social distancing and wearing a mask at school and abiding by and learning those routines, being a part of a school community. And it will also provide a very similar pace to the 100% online schedule that whereas some students will be in CDL, the hybrid will be able to closely mirror that same the pacing of that. Next slide, please. So the half-day schedule, what we're looking at would be the class would be split into two cohorts. There'd be a morning cohort that would run from 8:25 to 10:55, an afternoon cohort 12:25 to 2:55, with all classes K-5 being on that same schedule, looking at those times. Next slide, please. So the in-person for half days would be Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and Wednesdays for all students would remain the same. It's an 8:30 online meeting, focusing still on the social emotional learning and connection time. That has been so fantastic. It's been such a great thing. I've been able to sit in on a number of those 8:30 meetings, and great to see kids engaging and working together. And then the rest of the Wednesday would be followed by independent work, that asynchronous work that they have continued to do throughout the year so far. Next slide, please. So the half-day schedule, teachers would teach one group of students at a time. Classes would not be live streamed. So in an AM cohort, the kids in the PM cohort would not be getting that live stream. While students are at home, they would complete independent work online or on paper with kids coming into school and having that interaction with teachers. More work what could possibly be done on paper, depending on the what the teacher sets up, your child's teacher sets up. And there will also be small group interventions for those students in reading rocks for reading interventions, ELL students that are in English language development classes, and of course special education students. And our special education department will be working closely with those students and families, as they have been, to make sure we're abiding by IEPs that students might have, and making sure that those are being observed and stayed close to and followed. Next slide, please. So some of the details of a half day. So there would be a recess time, and we're going to show up in a little bit here. We're going to show a schedule, what a schedule might look like. And the recess, the daily time for socializing outside as often as possible. Recess, as will school as a whole, will look certainly different. You know, we talk about recess being a brain break, a stretch break. Sometimes we might not have the opportunity to go outside. We're going to have to practice social distancing. We right from the get-go would not be able to use the play structure, and we're going to have to abide by certain rules and regulations, keeping playground balls or jump ropes consistent with cohorts, but safety in mind at all times is going to be the focus as we look at everything from recess to, I get quite a lot of questions about supplies. Supplies will not be shared. We'll have you keep some supplies at home and some at school. iPads will come to school daily and could very much go back and forth. We're going to ask kids to, students have been wonderful and been so great about how responsible they have been with caring for iPads. We will continue to ask that of them. And if there's certain supplies we might ask kids to bring, we also might provide some of those here at school, but they will not be sharing, students will not be sharing supplies. They will be using their own individual items. So transportation, buses will be available for going to and from school for AM and PM routes. Doing the half days right now gives us that flexibility. If you are able to drive your child to school, that is certainly still an option. Mr. Nihill is ready to go. I'm going to have my umbrella and rain boots on, ready to go and meet and greet everybody as you pull up into that island. I actually need to get myself back in meet and greet shape is what I need to do. But we're excited for that. But transportation will be available. There will be limited number of students that are allowed on a bus, and there will be social distancing that will be a part of the transportation as well. Next slide, please. So cohorting, class balance will be prioritized, and this is a general guideline. Students will be placed by last name, AM, last names A through L, and PM, last names M through Z. It doesn't always work, never, it seems to never work perfectly that way, but we certainly have to balance those cohorts and the AM and PM groups. So it might have to shift a little bit numbers wise. If there are specific child care issues, there something that is very, very pressing that way, we can have a conversation about that, but we're going to really ask parents to adhere to these guidelines for this again for the hybrid, for the AM and PM setup. Meals, grab and go breakfast and lunch will be available for students who want it in both the AM and PM cohorts. So as the students exit, we'll have a grab and go breakfast, food, lunch available, and the kids will get that on the way out. So students will not be eating at school as a part of the general lunch that we've had in times past. Next slide, please. So before we jump into the schedule, the one thing that I really want to mention is that I do know that many of you are concerned with, looking at the hybrid and the comprehensive distance learning, that staying with your teacher is of utmost concern. And I want to make sure that we're going to address that in a little bit. So if you've had that kind of sitting out there, I've had a number of conversations with families already, and have had some really great conversations. So I want to make sure you know that we're going to talk about that. So here is an example of a Group A schedule in purple. Students would arrive 8:10 to 8:25. Again, students would come in. We'll be observing safety protocols as the students come in. Class meeting 8:25 to 8:55. Then we'd have reading, a recess break, stretch break, and then math, and then transition to a dismissal at that point. And then we would welcome the cohort B, the PM group in the afternoon. But wanted to give you an idea of what that would look like. When students are not in school and they're at home, for example, the AM group, when they're home in the PM, they would be working on some independent work. Could be extensions of reading, writing, math, science, social studies, and then also would access PE and music, their PE or music, whatever they happen to have during that 2-week stretch. Next slide, please. So social emotional learning has been a real priority. We really try to focus in on that to make sure that we know that this time away from school and this time away from friends has had a huge impact on kids. And we are really going to continue to focus on that social emotional learning aspect, and have our daily classroom meetings to build community, give kids an opportunity to be able to not only connect, but be able to share things that they might have concerns about or that they're thinking about, and just time to be able to have that time with their classmates, with their teacher, which is so important. And then individualized supports available for students and families. Mr. Bonfilio, our counselor, will be available, of course. I'm also happy to say that our William Patino Cabrera is our new family partnership advocate, and William will be available to connect and help support as needed. So we again have quite an extensive list of supports ready to go as needed for our families. Next slide, please. So ensuring a healthy return to school. So our mascots volunteered to be a part of this fun set up to show some social distancing on the bus here. But in our return to school, health and safety will be of the utmost, and we have detailed plans, and those plans are available on our website, a blueprint for school and blueprint for returning to school, and what would it look like, and how we're adhering to these safety measures. And it's a very clear, consistent approach, and it's on us to make sure that we are working with our students and being very clear with them what those expectations are and why we're being maintaining that social distance, and just having very clear measures in place. And so it's a very measured response for that return to school. We're going to ask families to be the first line of defense. We're going to ask you that if your student is coming to school in a hybrid setting, that you do a daily symptom screening at home. If a student has a sore throat, a cough, running nose, we're going to ask you to err on the side of caution and keep your child at home. Students will receive a visual screen before they get on the bus. Our bus drivers are being trained in that. And then also, as students walk into the building, we'll be doing visual screening as well. And at the time here at school, we will ask students to wear masks at all times. And so I want you to think about that. If your child's really struggling with keeping a mask on, think about that as the choice between the distance learning versus the hybrid coming into school. We will not be taking temperatures as students enter the building. We will have that as an option. If someone is not feeling well, we will certainly take a temperature and relay that. Our communication lines, our office staff does an amazing job of calling parents and keeping everyone up to speed on what's happening. And I'm very confident they will continue to do that to let you know if your child is not feeling well. So frequent hand washing, use of hand sanitizer, buses, classrooms, bathrooms sanitized between AM and PM cohorts. The time between then, we'll be spraying down surfaces and making sure that there's a sanitizing process in between the two AM and PM cohorts. Next slide, please. I'm going to give you a moment just to see. This is a slide in Spanish to help support that. These slides will be available for you to view on our website and on our school website and our district website to go back and to view. But I did want to give you an idea of the CFT mascot here is using a trifold. We will have clear plexiglass trifolds. I don't know if it'll look exactly like that, but each student will have a plexiglass on their desk to help with the safety measures. Next slide, please. So I've got to give a shout out to Baldy the Eagle, who is sitting there in a very attentive fashion. Joseph Oldham, a former Mary Woodward Eagle, who is a Tigard High student, is our Baldy right there. But with a healthy return to school, the cohorts will be half of current class size, and we will be maintaining the 35 square feet bubble that students will need to maintain. So we'll be in a very fortunate situation. Right now, the majority of our classes are, especially at the primary grade, in the low 20s overall. So we could have, anywhere from 10 to 14, 15 students at a time in the class, which will allow for a real safe environment, given that 35 square feet per student. Students will have individual, not shared supplies. We talked about that. Students will be at their desks and maintaining that distance. A lot of the lessons to begin with are going to be just going through those routines, making sure that we're following those and adhering to them, and really working together on that as a school community. And we have a student-friendly video using our different school mascots that will provide a visual guide for students, and we'll be sharing that. And then also a lot of the FAQs that we have from tonight and from the other building presentations will be on our TTSD website for you to look at if you have any questions along the way. Next slide, please. And again, that was the Spanish version of the Ensuring a Healthy Return to School, and this will be available on the school website. Next slide, please. And here's our back to school video. Here's a trailer for the back to school video that is coming soon. This will give you a general idea as we are looking at the possibility of a confirmed case that might happen while we're in school in a hybrid setting. Please know that if this is to happen, if there was let's say a student A had a confirmed case, if they had close contact with student B, then that student B would need to quarantine for 14 days. So let's say a student in the AM cohort that has tested positive for COVID, the entire group, that AM cohort, would need to quarantine for 14 days. The PM cohort, for example, if that, let's say student C is in the PM cohort, they might have had close contact with student B, but not student A. We are not going to have the PM cohort quarantine for 14 days. And the teacher would teach the AM cohort online. They would switch to a comprehensive distance learning format for 14 days for the AM cohort, but PM would continue as is, coming in as a part of the hybrid in school. The classroom teachers would not need to quarantine, because we are very fortunate to be on the first wave of this 1B as vaccinations are rolling out, that teachers will be vaccinated and not have to quarantine as a part of that, since they will have reached their vaccination timeframe 5 weeks after that first vaccine has kicked in. So we have actually started that this week. I was able to go down yesterday to the convention center and start that process. And I'll be heading down in a couple of weeks to get that second round. So, and our teachers are focused on K1 teachers and then working up through the grades from there. Next slide, please. This gives you another way to visualize and read through. I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but if you get a chance to go back and look at this when it's online, this just gives you another idea to kind of step through that process of the student contacts and different cohorts and what that means for having a quarantine. The one thing I did not mention in the previous slide, if a student on a bus is found positive to be COVID-19 positive, then the students that were on that bus, they would need to quarantine for 14 days as well. So I want you to think about that too as a part of that busing, and if you're able to drop your child off at school or take the bus. Next slide, please. So the getting to the position where we're in and choosing is such an important choice for families, and looking at the hybrid versus the comprehensive distance learning model, the CDL. The commitment for the remainder of the school year would be just like the hybrid. So if you choose the 100% online option, then you would stay in that option through the end of the school year in June, just like you would do for hybrid. Classes may include teachers and peers from other schools. So this was the biggie that I've heard from parents and teachers as well. And please know, at the elementary level, we know how important it is to the teachers have made these connections with students, and we know how important that is. And so we're going to do everything we can to try to maintain that. But I want you to understand too that we are in this next week, as parents choose between these options, we've got quite a task on our hand to take a look at possibly having students move from different hybrid to CDL or CDL to hybrid. And we're going to have to make sure that we have the staffing in place to make that happen. So we will try to do our best to keep kids with their teacher that they have right now, but I just can't guarantee that at this point in time. So we will certainly attempt to maintain consistency in schedules for families to choose to remain online. There may be some schedule adjustments there. And also, I can't remember if I mentioned this, on the AM/PM cohort, we of course would keep families together in the same AM cohort. If you're in AM or PM, we'll make sure to keep families together for that. Next slide, please. So as we go through this process, the enrollment process, this is all going to be done through Parent View like we did earlier in the year. We have some families that have not created a Parent View account yet, and it could be that you're new to Mary Woodward and you haven't had an opportunity to do that, but it is very important that you create a Parent View account, because the sign up for this is all done through Parent View. Our office staff will be available to help answer any questions, and if you have any concerns about this or just not too sure, please call us and err on the side of emailing us or calling to help you step through that if you're not too sure. The deadline for signing up and choosing between hybrid and comprehensive distance learning will be February 8th, and that's a Monday. So you have the rest of this week, all of next week, and then Monday, February 8th will be the date by the time you have to make that final decision. As I said, classes and teachers may change, even for families that remain in the same strand, but we'll certainly work hard to prioritize consistency as much as we can. So again, sign up for that Parent View. I can't begin to tell you how important that is to have that done. Next slide, please. So we're going to go through a brief Parent View instruction and what that's going to look like. You're going to log into Parent View to enroll, and it's going to step you right through this process. Very important. We need all families to complete the enrollment process. Even if you're in CDL and you want to stay in CDL, totally fine, but you have to go into Parent View to confirm that. Or if you're in hybrid and want to stay in hybrid, then you need to go in and confirm that. So you have to go in no matter what you choose or what you're doing. The complete enrollment by selecting hybrid or 100% online. Actually, next slide, we're going to show you what these slides look like. So when you start, this is a really important one here. You're going to select the model. So you're going to select, everyone is going to select the choice 2020 to 2021 hybrid or 100% online. Your student is already enrolled, so you're not going through the enrollment process again. So please, everyone's going to click hybrid or 100% online. Next slide, please. And then you're going to select your transportation, whether it's bus. We have a daycare bus that some families set up. We have on-site daycare through Club K that is there, and then or pick up or walk. So please make sure that you step through that. Next slide. And then the meal option. And again, the meal option is a grab and go set of lunch. If you don't care to have your child get the grab and go, you can just say no thank you, or you can choose one of those options between the breakfast and lunch, or breakfast only or lunch only. Next slide. So this is our final slide, and the timeline again is that the schools that have pre-kindergarten up through 5th grade, staff should be fully vaccinated, we're hoping by mid-March. So we're going in waves. We started with the primary grades and we're going to work our way up. And so our kinder 1st grade target date for hybrid learning would be, we're somewhere in the mid-March to late March window. Again, I know we have spring break that's in there. So again, it's really dependent on the vaccine and that rollout and what that is looking like. The grades 2 and 3 will follow shortly thereafter. We're not too sure if it's going to be a week afterwards, and then 4 or 5 will fold in after that. So it'll be kind of just a stair step. After we start with K1, we'll add on 2, 3, and then 4, 5 after that. Given those parameters, most likely 2, 3, and 4, 5 would certainly be after spring break is what we would be looking at. Families will learn cohorts about 2 weeks prior to the first day before K1. So you'll continue with your same teacher, the same program until we have, February 8th is that day to get that information in. And then we're going to do a lot of work to process that and get kids into classes and assignments and look at that and get that set up, and then get that information out to families. And then all classes will adjust, of course, when K1 goes back, as far as changing teachers, changing classes. If that has to happen, that will be done at the same time, K5. So I want to make sure that everybody's aware that we are here for you. If you have questions that are specific and wasn't able to get answered through the question and answer this evening, or you don't see it in the FAQs, my phone number is on the website, my email. You can call our office staff. Please don't hesitate. We want to be really clear with you all as far as what this is going to look like for our families. And we want you to have the clearest possible information as you make this choice. Next week, Thursday, February 4th, we have a PSO meeting at 6:30 p.m. And that will give us, will be a little bit more of a live session, so you can ask and grill me, and hopefully I'll have a clear answer for you on Thursday, February 4th at 6:30 p.m. I will promise to have a clear answer for you. And if I don't happen to know that information, I'll make sure to get it from the district. But I hope that you can join us and also just join us for our PSO meetings. We have an amazing group of parents that are working hard through this COVID school year, and we're trying to make the best of a really tough situation. So again, kudos to you families and parents that are working so incredibly hard to make this work for your children. A shout out to our staff and our teachers for working round the clock and working so incredibly hard, and to our students who are incredibly resilient. We miss you all, and we cannot wait to see you. And so please call us if you have any questions. Lindsay, at this point, I don't know if there's any, I think we're kind of running out of time because we're at 4:41, but if there was any major questions, were we able to hit most of those, Mrs. Dar?
Yes, I think most of them have been answered.
Okay. And again, if there's not, we're going to be working on the FAQ. We'll be posting those on our websites. And please call me directly if there's something specific and you're really concerned about something. Please call us, and we will make sure to be very clear with our communication and answer those for you. Thank you very much, Mary Woodward community. We look forward to seeing you soon, and thank you for joining us tonight. Take care, everyone. Be well.